Chicago, a city built on steel, sweat, and secrets. From the gambling dens of the 19th century to the smoke-filled back rooms of the outfit, power in this town has never been accidental. Who were these men and women? Big Jim O'Leary, Dean O'Banion, Capone, Virginia Hill, Ricardo, Iupa, Cerrone. Were they criminals, businessmen, power brokers, patriots of their neighborhoods, or predators of their own city? For over a century, they shaped elections, controlled unions, built empires, and ordered executions, often in the same breath. Their influence reached beyond Chicago to New York City, to Kansas City, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles. But their roots were here. This is not a myth. This is not Hollywood. This is history. And I'm James on the Mob. Well, welcome back to James on the Mob, everybody. I'm James Jenkins, your host and narrator. And in today's episode, we follow the rise and role of James Turk Torello, a figure deeply embedded in the outfit Cicero crew. Known for his unwavering loyalty and feared for his enforcement capabilities, Torello operated at the heart of the outfit's suburban empire. Cicero was not just a neighborhood. It was a fortress of organized crime influence, and Torello played a critical role in protecting that territory. Through his involvement in gambling operations and street-level enforcement, he helped preserve the outfit's dominance during a period marked by internal rivalries and external law enforcement pressure. His career illustrates how the outfit sustained power beyond Chicago's city limits, using trusted men in key suburban strongholds to maintain stability, loyalty, and control. His presence symbolized the outfit's iron grip on suburban Chicago, a reminder that power in Cicero wasn't just political, it was enforced in the shadows by men like Turk Torello. James Vincent Torello was born on December 15, 1930, and grew up on the tough streets of Chicago's West Side. His neighborhood was a notorious incubator for future organized crime leaders. Torello's formal entry into law enforcement records occurred in 1945, when he was approximately 14 or 15 years old. This first arrest initiated a rapid escalation of criminal activity, and by his late teens, Torello had already accumulated a serious rap sheet that included convictions for auto theft, armed robbery, burglary, and hijacking. The nickname Turk is historically tied to Torello's youth and his membership in the 42 Gang, a notorious street crew that served as a farm system for the Chicago outfit. In mid-20th century urban slang, a Turk often referred to a fierce, unruly, or aggressive young fighter. More specifically, in the context of the Chicago underworld, Torello was part of a generational shift known as the Young Turks. These were younger mobsters, including Sam Momo Giancana, who were aggressively pushing to replace the old guard leadership that remained from the Al Capone era. Torello's reputation for visceral violence and his role as a triggerman solidified the nickname during his early adulthood. The sociological landscape of Chicago during Torello's youth was characterized by the consolidation of power under Tony Ricardo, who assumed leadership of the outfit around 1947. Ricardo's philosophy emphasized low-profile operations and the infiltration of legitimate businesses, a shift that required operatives like Torello to be more than just street thugs. Nevertheless, the transition required a generation of enforcers who could maintain internal discipline with absolute ruthlessness. The specific incident that led to Torello's late 1940s federal imprisonment involved a violation of federal firearms laws. Torello was charged under federal statutes governing the possession and transport of illegal weaponry, like the Federal Firearms Act of 1938, which was frequently used by federal agents to target rising stars in the Chicago mob. During this time, Torello's reputation was that of a triggerman and enforcer, roles that required him to be consistently armed, often with weapons that were stolen or otherwise unregistered. Torello was ultimately convicted in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois. He was sentenced to serve 2 years in federal prison. This term was served during the late 1940s, a period when the Chicago outfit was undergoing a transition in leadership from the era of Al Capone survivors to the more sophisticated reign of Tony Accardo, Paul RICO, and eventually Sam Giancana. The 2-year sentence in the federal system served as a rite of passage for Torello. Unlike local county jails, federal prison provided Torello with the opportunity to network with more experienced criminals from the various families across the country. His ability to do his time without cooperating with authorities significantly enhanced his status when he returned to the streets of Cicero and the West Side. Following his release, Torello did not abandon his criminal activities. Instead, he applied the lessons learned during his imprisonment to more lucrative and organized rackets. On October 15, 1953, Torello was arrested in the Chicago suburb of Evanston, Illinois. At approximately 22 years of age, Torello was transitioning out of his role as a street-level triggerman into the more lucrative administrative layers of the outfit's vice operations. The arrest occurred during a targeted law enforcement action against the distribution networks of illegal wagering materials that plague the Chicago metropolitan area. Torello was taken into custody after being found in possession of illegal parlay cards. These cards were the FanDuel or the DraftKings of the era for sports betting, allowing gamblers to wager on the outcomes of multiple athletic contests simultaneously. Because they were printed and distributed on a massive scale by outfit-controlled presses, their possession was a key indicator that an individual's role as an agent or a runner for the mob's gambling wing. A highly significant aspect of the October 15th arrest was the involvement of Frank "Lefty" Rosenthal. Law enforcement records and later judicial inquiries established that Rosenthal, who would later become a central figure in the Las Vegas scam depicted in the film Casino, was arrested on the same day in Evanston for the identical charge of possessing parlay cards. This shared arrest highlights the early operational bond between Torello and Rosenthal. While Torello provided the muscle and the street-level discipline, Rosenthal contributed a mathematical aptitude for setting odds and managing betting lines. Both men were rising stars in the Chicago underworld, and their joint activity in Evanston demonstrated how the outfit paired enforcers with handicappers to ensure the smooth and protected operation of their betting wires. During the 1950s, the period surrounding this arrest, Torello and Rosenthal were deeply embedded in the operations of the Kaplan Sports Service. Kaplan served as a mob-connected betting wire and handicapping outfit that provided the line, the point spreads, and odds for college and professional sports across the Midwest. Torello used his position within this infrastructure to build a reputation as a professional gambler and expert handicapper, particularly in horse racing. His 1953 arrest was not merely a case of individual wagering. It was an intersection with the industrial-scale gambling operation that the outfit used to fund its broader criminal enterprise. The parlay cards seized in Evanston were physical evidence of the reach of the Kaplan service and the outfit's control over the juice, or the interest extracted from the betting public. The 1953 arrest in Evanston was Torello's first significant gambling-related offense. Following this indictment, Torello's value to mob boss Sam Momo Giancana increased as he proved he could manage both the technicalities of the betting wire and the physical enforcement required to collect street tax from independent bookmakers. By the late 1950s, Sam Giancana had risen to the top of the Chicago outfit. Under his leadership, Fiore Fifi Buccieri became the day-to-day boss of the West Side and the outfit's premier loan shark. He was born in 1907 and served as a bridge between the Prohibition-era gunmen and the modern Young Turks coming up in the 1950s and 1960s. During the 1920s, Buccieri had worked as a gunman for Al Capone. In 1925, he was arrested for the first time on a concealed weapons charge, and he was reportedly involved or suspected in at least 10 gangland slayings during the bootleg wars of Prohibition. He established a system where his thugs distributed business cards to the unemployed, listing him as a loan officer, using his reputation for brutality to ensure collection. Torello served as Buccieri's top underling and protege during this era. The reputation of Turk Torello was not merely built on his administrative success, but on a documented capacity for extreme sadism that even his contemporaries found notable. This aspect of his persona was most vividly illustrated by the murder of William Action Jackson in 1961. Jackson, a 350-pound loan shark and outfit associate who had the body of a man with the brain of a child, was suspected of cooperating with federal authorities. The outfit's response, carried out by Torello and his associates Dave Yaris, Mad Sam DeStefano, and Fifi Buccieri, was designed to serve as a definitive deterrent to any other potential informants. According to FBI wiretap evidence, Torello oversaw the torture of Jackson with a level of involvement that transcended professional duty. Jackson was reportedly taken to a meat processing facility, hung from a meat hook stuck in his anus, and tortured for 3 days using an electric cattle prod, bats, ice picks, and bullets. Torello was later recorded excitedly recounting the details of Jackson's death, noting how the large man flopped around on the hook for days before finally expiring. The psychological impact of the Jackson murder on the Chicago underworld cannot be overstated. It solidified Torello's status as the organization's premier terror instrument and established a standard of consequence that discouraged internal dissent for a generation. This penchant for grisly detail was a recurring theme in Torello's career. Another FBI wiretap recorded him in Miami, plotting the murder of a Chicago Union boss, Francis Frankie X Esposito, who had crossed the organization. Torello's proposed method involved transporting the man out to sea in a high-speed powerboat, slitting his throat to ensure blood attracted predators, chopping the remains into manageable pieces, and feeding them to the sharks. While the FBI intervened to prevent this particular execution, the revelation of the plot underscored Torello's belief that violence should be both functional and expressive. During the late 1960s, Turk Torello's influence in Nevada was demonstrated by his direct coordination of debt recovery operations aimed at stabilizing the Chicago outfit's interest in Las Vegas. In 1968, acting in his capacity as a capo regime with cross-jurisdictional authority, Torello dispatched Robert Bobby the Beak Siegel to Las Vegas. Siegel, an outfit burglar who would later survive the 1978 Accardo home break-in burglars purge and participate as a prosecution witness in the 2007 Family Secrets trial. Siegel's primary mission was to assist Frank Lefty Rosenthal, the outfit's primary oversight agent, stationed at the Stardust Hotel and Casino, in recovering a delinquent debt. The $87,000 debt was owed by a local associate of Rosenthal, and its non-payment represented a challenge to the fiscal discipline required of the organization's skim operations. Torello selected Siegel specifically for this mission to ensure that the recovery was conducted with the requisite threat of violence and administrative precision that the Stardust operations demanded. This 1968 enforcement action remained largely hidden from public view for decades until it was famously disclosed by Siegel during his testimony at the 2007 Family Secrets trial. Torello's involvement in Florida was equally significant. Florida served as both a vacation destination for the Chicago leadership and a neutral ground where national criminal business was conducted. Torello's frequent trips to Miami and Palm Beach were often business-oriented, focused on maintaining the outfit's influence over labor unions and protecting Chicago's share of East Coast criminal markets. His plots to dispose of rivals in the shark-infested waters of the Gulf of Mexico reflected a logistical awareness of how to dispose of evidence in jurisdictions where the outfit did not have the same level of political control as it did in Cicero. As the leaders of the Chicago outfit entered the 1970s, they increasingly adopted a bi-coastal lifestyle, splitting their time between the gritty streets of Chicago and the desert luxury of Palm Springs, California. Palm Springs became a secondary headquarters for the outfit's elite, including Tony Accardo, Joey Aiuppa, and Turk Torello. Torello purchased a home in Palm Springs in the late 1970s, joining his mentors in what was essentially a retirement community for the Chicago Mafia. This move to Palm Springs represented the final stage of the mobster's evolution, the transition from street brawler to wealthy businessman. Despite his high-ranking position, Torello's domestic life and Cicero remained remarkably stable. His wife, Leila Doodles Torello, was a fixture in the community and active in local institutions like Our Lady of the Mount Church. The Torello family's ability to maintain a veneer of normalcy while James Torello oversaw some of the most brutal acts of the century was a testament to the Cicero fortress mentality, where the lines between community and organization were perpetually blurred. The year 1973 marked a significant transition in the outfit's high command, following the death of Fiore Fifi Buccieri. Buccieri had been the outfit's primary enforcer and a key lieutenant to both Giancana and Accardo. His death created a power vacuum that James Torello was uniquely qualified to fill. Upon Buccieri's passing, he was elevated to the position of chief of the Cicero crew. In this new capacity, Torello's responsibilities expanded to overseeing the discipline and strategic operations of the entire organization. This included the management of the outfit's interests in Las Vegas and the growing pornography industry, as well as the resolution of high-level internal disputes. Torello's elevation was a signal that the young Turk generation had finally fully integrated into the senior leadership, bringing a more modern, although no less violent, approach to the outfit's governance. The Cicero crew under Torello acted as the primary enforcement arm for Joseph Iupa, who had risen to become the day-to-day boss of the outfit by the early 1970s, while Tony Accardo remained the ultimate power broker. Torello and Iupa shared a similar temperament, disciplined, violent when necessary, and focused on the long-term stability of the organization. The Cicero crew managed a vast network of bookmaking operations, vending machine routes, and labor union influence that extended into the industrial hearts of the west side and western suburbs. Torello's formal elevation to the rank of capo regime also saw him take command of the Southside 26th Street crew, one of the most historically significant and profitable units in the Chicago outfit. The 26th Street crew, which frequently operated in and around the city's Chinatown and Bridgeport neighborhood, was a hub for diverse criminal activities, including gambling, loan sharking, and sophisticated hijacking rings. Under Torello's leadership, the crew became a model of loan sharking and street tax collection. The structure of the 26th Street crew during Torello's tenure was characterized by a clear chain of command and a focus on territorial expansion. Following Torello's ascension to the position of boss of these crews in 1974, he delegated daily operations to a circle of trusted lieutenants who would later become leaders in their own right, including Joseph Mr. Clean Ferriola, Rocco Ernest Infelice, and Angelo the Hook La Pietra. The crew's operations were not limited to the South Side. Beginning in approximately 1974, they aggressively sought to control all independent sports bookmaking businesses in northern Cook County, as well as neighboring Lake and McHenry counties. While the 26th Street crew provided a vast geographic revenue stream, Torello's personal and strategic base remained in Cicero. Cicero had served as the outfit's suburban headquarters since the days of Al Capone, offering a political environment so thoroughly compromised that mobsters could operate with near impunity. Torello was a native of Cicero, and his leadership of the Cicero crew was deeply integrated into the town's social and political fabric. The latter half of Torello's career coincided with the birth of modern federal racketeering prosecution. The passage of the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, or RICO, in 1970 fundamentally changed the stakes for the outfit. Prior to RICO, law enforcement struggled to link the leadership's orders to the street-level crimes. Torello's tenure as a crew chief was defined by his efforts to harden the organization against this new threat. The FBI's increased use of electronic surveillance, particularly the C1 squad in Chicago, meant that Torello was under nearly constant monitoring. Wiretaps at the Survivors Club and other mob hangouts began to piece together the structure that Torello had so carefully managed. However, the outfit's counterintelligence was also sophisticated. They utilized corrupt police officers and political contacts to monitor investigations and identify potential informants before they could provide testimony. Torello's role as enforcer was central to this effort. His job was to ensure that the wall of silence remained impenetrable. In the late 1970s, James Torello's health began to decline rapidly. He was diagnosed with cancer, a condition that would eventually do what law enforcement and rival mobsters could not. Despite his illness, he remained the outfit's chief enforcer until his final days, participating in high-level meetings and ensuring the stability of the organization's succession plan. Turk Torello died on April 13, 1979, at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in downtown Chicago at the age of 48. His death was a significant blow to the outfit, as it lost a most effective administrative enforcer at a time when federal pressure was mounting. His funeral was a major event in the Chicago underworld, attended by the organization's elite and served as a somber reminder of the passing of the young Turk generation into the annals of history. Torello was buried at Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, Illinois, a location that holds the remains of many of the outfit's most notorious figures. His legacy within the organization was carried on by his protégés in the 26th Street and Cicero crews. Angelo the Hook LaPietra eventually took full control of the 26th Street crew in 1983. Joseph Ferriola succeeded Torello as boss of the Cicero crew and later became outfit street boss until his own death in 1989. Rocco and Felice took over thereafter, continuing the traditions of sports bookmaking, juice loans, and street tax collection until he too was jailed in the Good Ship Lollipop case in 1992. The effectiveness of Torello's enforcement can be seen in the relatively few high-level defections during his time as Cicero boss. It was only after his death and the subsequent leadership of figures like Joseph Ferriola, Rocco and Felice, and Sam Wings Carlisi that the organization began to truly fracture under the weight of federal pressure. The Ferriola Street Crew, which was essentially the continuation of Torello's rule, would eventually be fractured in the early and mid-1990s. So goes the story of Jimmy Turk Torello. Turk Torello's reign over the West Side was brief, but it was not insignificant. By the time he assumed greater authority within the outfit, he had already proven himself disciplined, strategic, and capable of navigating both street enforcement and interstate expansion. His death in 1979, at just 48 years old, cut short what may have become a far more influential chapter in Chicago's organized crime history. Unlike many who rose quickly and burnt out recklessly, Torello had shown signs of measured leadership, balancing loyalty, business acumen, and territorial control. Had he lived into the turbulent 1980s, it's possible that he may have shaped the outfit's direction during a period of increasing federal pressure and internal stability. Instead, his legacy remains a study in momentum halted, a capable leader whose full impact we can only speculate about. And in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on Jimmy Torello. Had he lived, what impact could it have made on the outfit during the 1980s, 90s, or even 2000s? I'm James Jenkins. If you've enjoyed this video on the Turk, you know what to do. Tap that like thumb, subscribe and share, and look out for more James on the Mob. And remember, life is so short, so don't whack it off. Say is.